Well, the waiting is almost over. The change of trend is coming. And I remember the last few. We have a mass extinction of over-exuberant, undercapitalized, and way over-leveraged so-called investors. I call them speculators. They're all going to get destroyed. You know, when you over-leverage, every time you add debt, you add problems. So this is coming. I've been talking about this. I know it's a big temptation, and that's called cognitive dissonance, that we don't want to believe that it's over with. And the last people in, and if you over-leveraged, well, even if you didn't over-leverage, you're probably going to take a loss. So let me go to my next slide here, and let's just talk about what we see. I don't want to make this a very, very long video. So I have talked about this over and over and over again, that there's such a temptation to want to buy a property. So if we see them at 100, and you can think that you can buy them at 70 because they used to be 100, or maybe you can get them at 65, and you say, you know, I can put 5 or 10% back in, and I can sell it at 100. But what you don't realize is that it's falling. And at 100 that you buy at 70 can maybe go to 40 or 35. And not only do you lose all your down payment, but you also lose all the money that you did to rehab the property. This is the jeopardy period. This is when you don't buy anything unless you really, really are sure that this is what's going to happen. Now, if you just wait, patience is the hardest thing to do if you're an investor. Absolutely, positively the hardest thing. Let me open this up a little bit so you can see this. We have these generational buying opportunities coming. Now, you had them when you in 80, and 81, 82, 83. 83, you could buy all kinds of stuff. And then we went into the RTC. Oh my gosh, there's all kinds of buys, but you had to have money. And we had all kinds of deals when we got into the 2008, 9, and 10. Oh my gosh, you know, don't you wish you would have bought a lot of properties in 2009? We did. We bought a lot of properties. I didn't buy more. That's the biggest problem I have. I should have bought more. And that's coming. This is an opportunity that I don't want you to miss. Now look at, when you look at the great financial crisis, you can see these. There's a buy, there's a buy, there's a buy. Should have bought them then. Now this is typically when you're going to get the very best. This is not the bottom. This is where the good properties are at. We talked about this. You know, this is where people get all stressed. You get 3 or 4 vacant properties and you put them on the market, and always the best sell. And that's what we want. We want to get the best properties. That's what we do here. And when we get down to here, you know, we can start buying for a long term because most of that risk has been wrung out. We're not going to. First off, we're not going to know that we're at bottom, but as long as we got most of the risk out, these are fine. Now, again, we've been talking about this as being a pretty scary time. I think there's going to be a really scary time. We're already getting it. Now, I'm going to reference Melody Wright. We're going to reference John Rubino. Wolf Street. You guys should be paying attention to these. This is very, very good data. And of course, it's not coming out of mainstream media. These are really empirical things, but we're seeing this. We're seeing that the builders are really, really scared. I heard from reading Melody Wright that I think it was Goldman Sachs that came out and said that the builders were maybe it was D.R. Horton, put about 8.7% of their sales price was in concessions, and Melody said that Lennar is at over 13%. Well, you can't make any money when you're giving away 13%, but you can survive. So they're getting to the point they're more concerned about survival than profit. Let me go to my next slide and let's just talk about it, because I cannot stress enough that we have risk, and it could very well retrace back to 30%. I think that's probably nationwide, probably going to happen. But if we get into major problems, it could retrace all of this crazy stuff, because we never really finished here. We never finished. You know, this is where the Federal Reserve got in and just started putting trillions of dollars in again. This was Ben Bernanke, and then going into Janet Yellen, and it could go this high. So this is what I'm seeing. I got this from John Rubino again. So he's just if you're not reading John Rubino, he has a free Substack article you can get. You should really subscribe to him. He's a brilliant man and a forward thinker. You're certainly going to want to listen to him. And he had articles out today. That's where I got that mass extinction. I just think that is so apropos for what we're talking about. But I just took it a little further. Mass extinction for over-leveraged, over-exuberant, and undercapitalized speculators, because that's what happens. My personal portfolio is free and clear. I'm not selling mine. We're just going to continue accepting the cash flow. Let me go to my next slide here, and let's just talk about this. Now, prices are starting to fall from Wolf Street in 12 of the biggest cities, and mid-tier single-family homes have already dropped by 10% or more. So let's just take a look where they are. So here they are, mass extinction. This came from John Rubino this morning from Wolf Street. Oakland, Austin. Look at Austin, Texas, down 23%. Cape Coral, Florida, these are fabulous markets, down 18%. Fort Myers down 12%. Denver down 10%. Portland, of course, Portland's going to be down 10%. And Phoenix, I think we're down at least 10%. And again, when you're talking these big, like Phoenix is just an enormous marketplace. Maricopa County, where it's at, it's bigger than 2 states. It's just an enormous landmass. And some places are down even more than 10%. And just look at this. Now, here's right here in my market is you can just take a look at this. This is Mesa, Arizona. And condos in particular are really in trouble. So you can see where the old bubble was and where the new bubble is. And, condos act very, very similar to apartment complex. They compete with apartments. And here in Phoenix, we've got 42,000 A units that are in completion stage and in lease-up stage right now. And of course, it's very, very hard on condos. And condos affect for the VRBO and Airbnb craze that went on. And, people overpaid for them. And they're not economically viable. So a lot of these condos are coming on board. Let me go to my next slide. This is amaze you because it's in Scottsdale. Again, look at the size. This is in 2006 and 2007. I was here in Scottsdale when this happened. And look what's happened. Look at this run up. Now, this is condos. Houses in Scottsdale have done exceptionally well. But most of these are, there's an awful lot of cash that's being paid in Scottsdale. So we've talked about that before. It's a bifurcated marketplace. So if you've got cash, you're not too terribly concerned about the interest rates because you're just paying cash. And of course, a lot of people fleeing overseas coming here. And of course, a lot of people leaving Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and are coming to Scottsdale, Arizona. We're looking at those markets. Homes are exceedingly cheap. You can buy in my neighborhood. You can get a 4,500, 5,000 square foot single level home on a half-acre lot back into the golf course for $2 to $3 million, and it's just absolutely pristine. So a lot of these are selling very well. In particular, we still have a lot of people who are doing a remote work, so this works out really well. But when you start talking about those sections in Phoenix where you have first-time home buyers, because we're one of the biggest builder windows in the world, and we have so much industry already underway. Remember, we have the Taiwan chip plant here is just it's hiring like crazy, and they're got a $1 billion offer, a $1 billion contract from NVIDIA to make their chips. So going like crazy already. So it's a very, very good market. But those people that have to finance, those guys are in trouble. They're hurting. Let me go to my next slide. Let's see if we can talk about that one. And I got this from Melody Wright. Sent this out this morning. Why don't you take a look at this? She is such a brilliant woman. And we're talking about the fact that new versus existing homes is so much cheaper. It's almost $35,000 cheaper for the median home price existing. And it's cheaper to buy a brand new home, a median price existing, almost by $35,000. And look at this, minus 13.3%. So it's $401,000 minus 13%. So really it's about $350,000. So it's really a huge, huge difference. And so when you start thinking that these guys are giving incentives of 13.3% average incentive, That is a lot of money. That's $50,000-$60,000 just on the average one. And if they really want to get rid of it, they'll be even worse than this. So leads you to wonder if I have $60,000 incentives, am I buying a $340,000 house for $400,000? So you have to be really, really careful out there. But this just leads you to the understanding that builders want to get rid of these things. They're getting to the survival mode. And we as investors are going to have a time, it's going to be a small time, when the builders are going to start throwing in the towel and they're going to really, really get to be good buys, because they're a finite supply. Once they throw in the towel and they quit building, well, then we need to gobble up the supply, because you're going to get it at very, very reduced prices. So that's coming. So what I'm telling you is I can see the change of trend coming very, very quickly. It's going to be scary as all get out. Just scary as all get out. But I want you to get ready for it. If you like my last video, we want to talk about going to that video. Let me go to my next slide here and just take a look at this. Now, again, we're talking about the fact that where's this liquidity going to come from? Where is this liquidity? You know, we're talking about most of the powder. You remember that we talked a couple of weeks ago about the fact that hedge funds are down to 3.8% cash. Warren Buffett's at 27%. So if you get good buys, the hedge funds are dry. Mutual funds are dry. ETFs are dry. They don't have any powder. So if you want to build up your cash, because we're going to get incredible buys that are coming, you have to have the cash to do this. And you can see by these charts that there's no liquidity left. And we've been talking about liquidity coming down for a long, long time. So we think we could get all the way down here. This would be like 2017. It should stop really 2019, but you know, the pendulum goes and it doesn't stop where you think it's going to be. So we have a shot at a 2017 pricing. That would be scary as all get out. But then it's going to start, and you've got 14 years up. And once that risk is out, we're going to buy and buy and buy and buy. It's going to be really, really significant. We're going to buy as much as we possibly can. We've got goals set up. So remember, one man's losses is another man's gains, and this is coming. I know that there's people going to lose their houses, they're going to lose their cars, they're going to lose their jobs, they're going to lose their bank accounts, they're going to lose their families, they're going to get divorced. This is going to be a very bad thing. We're here to pick up the pieces, so we want to do this. If we can help in any way, you know where I'm at. My very, very best to you guys. Bye-bye now.